I'm here with my friend Valerie O'Mara, who is my neighbor. We have lots of great conversations about things happening in the world, about our past, about our present, about our future, and I brought her here today to talk with me.
And I'm Valerie, and I'm here with my neighbor, Amy.
I just was thinking about some of the conversations that we've had recently about your life in healthcare as a PA and some of the amazing things that you've done being in healthcare now and just looking at where we're going and some of the stressful and ambiguous directions that healthcare is going.
I'll have to say, being a physician assistant, it wasn't what I set out to do in life. All my life I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. Then I realized how competitive that was, and a college counselor mentioned this PA program at Cornell, and I attended this from 79 to 81, flew out to Seattle for an interview for a group working out of Providence Hospital in Seattle that did heart surgery. And on my 2 rotations that were my favorite, they were plastic surgery and cardiac surgery, so I figured I was going to go into whichever one came first. And I was hired. It was the career of a lifetime. Sure, there were lots of days on call, lots of long days, sad days, jubilant days. But I tell you, I look back many, many times over my years of almost 40 years as a PA, and I can't think of what else I would have ever done in my life. I loved being in cardiac surgery and taking care of ill patients and grateful patients. I don't think I could have had more job satisfaction with any other career.
I know that you've worked for different healthcare organizations. Is there a standout time period that you really think this was kind of the highlight?
I mean, everybody always talks about the good old days, and I will have to say the 80s, working at Providence, insurance companies paid well, everybody was happy. Providence Hospital in Seattle did the second most cardiac surgery cases of any hospital on the West Coast. They were doing 1,600 hearts a year, and it felt good to be a part of that. There were 2 cardiac surgery groups, one with 6 surgeons, one with 4, and I worked with the group that had 4. And I was the 3rd PA hired at Providence. I think there had been a champion surgeon that had brought up the idea about hiring a PA. Providence administration said, no, we're not doing that. He said, oh yeah, we are. And so they had hired a gal to cover the intensive care units as the first one. And then I was hired, and I was sort of a blended product. And it was wonderful. I was so new. I knew nothing and could only go upwards. And then I was affiliated with other hospitals. A new hospital opened up doing cardiac surgery. That was exciting. I've worked with wonderful surgeons, met wonderful people at each place.
So outside of different organizations that you worked with, what about some of the unique or exciting pieces that you did?
Well, I would have to say that really nothing changed in cardiac surgery for a long, long time. And then they started combining interventional procedures that cardiologists would normally do with the added expertise of a cardiac surgeon. And at that point, I was at Overlake Hospital, and they were starting this program, and they were called TAVRs, transcatheter aortic valve replacements. And these were meant to be for patients who were elderly or sick or for some other reason were not good surgical candidates. Instead of an incision through the chest and stopping the heart, they were able to go in through an artery in the groin, and while the heart is still beating, they expand the valve. Now, one of them has a balloon that you expand, and the other one you just release from its carrier, and it expands on its own. And basically, it was for severe aortic stenosis, and it pushed all the calcium and bad parts of the valve to the side and put in this new valve. The next seconds, the heart's beating, and they no longer have aortic stenosis.
Wow.
They were advertising for a director of this program, but as I got more and more into it, and we developed order sets and protocols and that sort of thing, I just couldn't see 6 months down the road handing this to somebody else. So I stepped back from cardiac surgery and assumed that role. It was life-changing. It was neat because you spent so much time with these patients. As part of their workup, they needed to see a cardiologist that does these procedures. They also needed to see 2 separate cardiac surgeons who would assess their risk to be able to have this procedure versus surgery. So we spent a lot of time with these patients. We knew their kids' names. One lady brought her dog in with her all the time in a little medical carrier. It was just like family. So it was really special where I thought I had the absolute dream job working in cardiac surgery and taking care of cardiac surgery patients every day to change to this program. It was a great thing for me. I loved it. I do have to cite my very first patient. Stan the Man, we called him, and his son and daughter-in-law were both physicians in the Olympia area, and they knew he had severe aortic stenosis and brought he and his wife out from Iowa to be evaluated, and he did indeed have severe aortic stenosis, and he was being evaluated by our TAVR program before we'd actually started, so we didn't really have a date. He so loved the team when he met them that when I was saying goodbye to him, he asked the valet person at the parking area at Overlake to take a picture of us. So I have a picture the first day we met. And he just said, I love you guys. I want to be your first patient. He was 89 years old when he had his procedure. That's back when we did general anesthesia. He really looked good enough to go home the next day, but we're like, oh no, we can't. He's 89.
You're 89.
He's 89. He's our first. We kept him 2 days. And we all laughed at that afterwards. But we have stayed in touch with Stan. He is such a fan of the procedure. His son would send pictures of him out golfing and fishing. And Stan just celebrated his 98th birthday.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think we're at time, so I just want to thank you for coming.
Well, I'm thrilled that we're neighbors.
Me too. Thank you so much. It's the greatest compliment ever.